talking for a long time. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Today I am going to be filming my February wrap-up. So yes, I'm going to show you all of the books that I read in February. So in February I read a total of 14 books. I actually had a really good reading month rating wise. I don't think I rated any of these lower. Oh, okay, there was one 3-star, but all of the others were 4-star plus, which is really, really good. I'm super chuffed. So in February, I actually took part in a couple of readathons. So the first one was Fantasy February. This was hosted by Reading with Emma over on Bookstagram. And there was essentially a bingo board and 9 prompts, and you could double up. I think you could use one book for 2 prompts, but I was ambitious and I tried to read 9 books. I actually have read 9 fantasy books, but I mood read a bit too much and they didn't fit in with all of the prompts, but that's fine. I haven't completed the bingo board, but I loved the readathon and you should definitely go and follow Emma. I'll link her Instagram below, but it was such a fab readathon and I loved taking part. I also took part in the Queer No Fear readathon hosted by Mind of Molly and Tea Books and Tasmin. Loved taking part in that. I read lots of queer books this month actually, but I'll tell you the books that I read specifically for that readathon when we get to them. Yes, without further ado, I will show you the books that I read in February. So the first book that I read in February was The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. I actually read the audiobook alongside this one and it was fantastic. I highly recommend this audiobook. It's like a full cast recording and I literally just flew through this book. It was really, really good, and it was the first time I actually read an audiobook alongside reading it physically, and I definitely will be doing it more often. So I really, really enjoyed this. This is a YA queer romance. It's a male romance in the book. I loved it because it wasn't just a YA romance. Do you know what I mean? The romance was sort of like a subplot, which I really appreciated. Essentially, the main character's dad has applied to pilot a new spacecraft and he's been selected to train. So they have to move to a new state, a town within the state that's specifically for these people, and they're followed by reality TV shows and news reporters, and they basically become celebrities. But the main character has his own platform. It's similar to YouTube. I don't remember what it's called in this book, but he has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers and he's told he's not allowed to post on there without the permission of this other reality TV show, but he just does it anyway. It's super cool. There's lots of drama in this. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. It actually surprised me a lot. The second book I read, I'm slowly making my way through all of the books by this author. It is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I have made it my mission before the Netflix show. I need to have finished the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and also I want to have read the Six of Crows duology. So I went into this with very low expectations because a lot of people I follow who have read this series enjoyed the first one and then didn't enjoy the second and third book so much. So I was like, okay, I'll go in with low expectations. I want to get them read, but I'm not expecting big things. But I think because my expectations were so low, it actually really pleasantly surprised me. And I gave this 4 stars overall. I really, really, really did enjoy it. It was very easy fantasy. It just continued from the first book very nicely, continued with the world building. There was very few new characters, but the ones we did meet I did enjoy. I really enjoyed reading about Nicole. Yeah, it's not the best fantasy I've ever read. I'm expecting much better things from Six of Crows. However, I am really glad that I have persevered with this series because it actually turned out to be much better than I thought it was going to be. I read a book which is, I can categorically say, it is like my new favourite book of all time. And it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I cannot tell you how much I love this book. Like, I don't actually think I can word how sensational it was. It was just phenomenal, honestly. It's a standalone fantasy, but it's not high fantasy. It's very like fantasy realism. It follows our main character, Linus Baker. He works at the Department of Charge of Magical Youth and he goes to orphanages with magical children to make sure that they're functioning properly. One day he gets summoned by extremely upper management and he's being sent to an orphanage which has like level 4 children in it. and he's very scared, and he goes to this orphanage right here. He's sent on a classified mission to an orphanage where there are 6 dangerous children, and he's got to spend a month there, and it's just amazing. It's queer, it's wholesome, it's happy, it's warm, it's a hug in a book, and I highly, highly recommend this. Even if you don't like fantasy, this is going to be a book that I'm going to reread and reread and reread. Like, you just know those books. I gave this 5 stars if you haven't guessed already. This is one book, if you have to buy one book from one wrap-up that you watch in February, please make it this one. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the books that I read for the Queer No Fear readathon. So the first one is Pet by Akweki and Messi. I probably just butchered the pronunciation of their name. However, this is a YA standalone fantasy. It's very short, it's just over 200 pages, and I loved it. It basically follows our main character Jam, and her mum is an artist, and she's in the studio and she's painting this monster, and her mum hasn't been into the studio for a few days, so Jam presumes that her mum has finished the painting, and she wakes up in the middle of the night and she goes to have a look, and she falls on top of the painting and she cuts herself, and essentially her bleeding on the painting brings the monster to life. However, it's basically all about a society where they have expelled monsters, they've got rid of monsters, everyone knows that monsters no longer exist, and they hunt a monster. And it's just incredibly written. I'm not going to spoil it, but the metaphors in this and the imagery in this is just incredible. And Jam is actually a trans main character, which is why it was perfect for the Queer No Fear readathon. It was just done really beautifully, really tastefully. I adored the story. It was amazing. It actually blew me away a little bit. I gave this, I think, 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me. And then the next book that I read for the Queer No Fear readathon was The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is actually the first ever graphic novel I've ever read, and it was just so cute. It's queer-owned voices. Again, the rep wasn't like in your face, it was just done really, really tastefully. There's also fantastic disability rep in this graphic novel. It's just like stunning. The story is just so cute. It's just so cute, and I want my own tea dragon. It was a fantastic one for a readathon because it only took me a few minutes to read it. And then the third book that I read for the Queer No Fear readathon was The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. This is the first book in a series. The second one's coming out in August this year. I'm so excited. So basically our main characters live in essentially a brothel. It's a society where parents essentially think the best thing to do, they're so poor, they sell their daughters to these houses. They're promised a better life where they can work and earn food and have a lovely lifestyle, but it's actually not like that at all. It's very like Handmaid's Tale vibes. Prologue essentially is the main character, Clementine, and it's her first evening where she's come of age, and a man will come into her room for the first time essentially, but she has no idea what to expect. So when what inevitably happens, she lashes out and it ends badly. So then her sister Asta, who is a year older than her, she knows what's going on, hatches an escape, and her, Asta, their rival enemy Violet, and then 2 younger girls, Mallow and Tansy, all escape the house, and then it's about their fight to freedom, and they've got a price on their heads. It's like a Western fantasy, and they're outlaws, and it's just really, really fab. And there's FF romance in here, and I'm hoping for like the best enemies to lovers ever in the second book. I'm hoping. And I gave this 4.75 stars. Please do check the trigger warnings, for all of these books, but especially this one. Then I read a very, very anticipated read, which was A Vow So Bold or Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the third book in the Cursebreakers series, third and final book in the trilogy. I won't talk too much about it because it's the third book, so obviously whatever I say will be a spoiler. I love this trilogy, and I feel like if you haven't read much fantasy, it could be a very good introduction into fantasy for you. There's fantastic disability rep throughout all 3 of the books, and it was just a fantastic climatic ending to the series. I would love Bridget Kemmerer to maybe write like a novella a couple of novellas to segue some of the other characters. I would love to know more about Isak, for example. If you've read this book, you'll know who I mean, but I really loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. The second book was definitely the favourite in the trilogy for me. Then I read the Rainbow Readers Book Club pick for February. So the theme this month was Femme Feb, and Shiv, one of the co-hosts, actually chose this book. We didn't vote on a poll this month, and she chose The Falling in Love Montage by Kiara Smith. This is a YA sapphic romance. It follows our main character Saoirse. Her mum is in a home. She has early onset dementia, which is a massive trigger warning in this book, so please be mindful of that. And her dad is getting remarried. She's not sure how she feels about it. She goes to a party and she meets Ruby, and they basically have a pact that they'll recreate the falling in love montage of a rom-com, but without actually falling in love. So we all know what's going to happen. But it was really cute. It was written in a way where it wasn't cliche. Like a lot of books like this, you can guess the ending and it's just, oh, okay, I knew that was going to happen. The ending was actually a surprise to me. It wasn't like your typical ending, which I really enjoyed. It was heartwarming, it was wholesome, it was sapphic, and I loved it. It was such a great book club pick. I then read my first ever novella, which was Binti by Nyadi Okorafor. This is actually a trilogy of novellas. I have to say, I probably won't be in a rush to finish it. Really difficult one to explain. Like, I'm not sure I actually comprehended what happened in this. It was only 90 pages, and I feel like it was a lot of world building and a lot to take in just 90 pages. I think it actually would have been much more successful as a book, as a novel. It wasn't a bad novella. It was interesting. It was interesting. I gave it 3 stars overall. I didn't hate it. It was good. It was just it was a lot. Like it was a lot. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, what just happened? I gave this 3 stars overall. I then read another highly anticipated sequel, and that is Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. If you watched my January wrap up, you'll know that Daughter of Smoke and Bone literally became one of my new favourites ever when I read it in January, and this did not disappoint. It was just such an incredible sequel. I can't tell you how much I love this series. I'm actually on a book ban at the moment. I'm giving up buying books for Lent. I don't own the 3rd book and it's literally killing me. But I'm gonna go and buy it as soon as the shops reopen. I think it will be like amazing. So yes, Laini Taylor's writing was sensational. This one was a lot heavier, like the content was a lot heavier, but she wrote the light relief in a really clever way. It was just amazing. I love the characters, I love the writing, I love the story. I love it so much. Again, I can't really talk much about it because it's a sequel. I really don't want to spoil anything. But Daughter of Smoke and Bone is literally becoming a new favourite series. I'm so excited to finish it, but also I'm glad that I'm not rushing finishing it. I just sort of like want to enjoy the fact that I love this one so much before I read the 3rd one. But yeah, I'm going to read the 3rd one, Dreams of Gods and Monsters, hopefully in April. And then in May, I want to read Strange the Dreamer. So I'm super excited. Laini Taylor has very quickly, within 2 books, become a favourite author of mine. Her writing style just clicks with me. I'm obsessed with it. It's just stunning. Oh, and I gave this 5 stars. This was when the TBR went a little bit askew. So everything so far was on my TBR in one way or another for the Fantasy February readathon. However, it just went a bit downhill because we spontaneously started our buddy read, me and Books with Han, of Akweki. So we meant to buddy read this in March, but Han had the next book on pre-order, so we brought the buddy read forward. But as you can imagine, spontaneously reading 700 pages is going to bother the TBR a little bit. So yes, the 2 books I actually had to read for the readathon got abandoned for this one. But I'm so glad I did. I'm really glad I did. I was super apprehensive to read it because I didn't enjoy Akamath as much as I was hoping to. Everyone says that Akamath is their favourite, which is why I was expecting Akamath to be so good. And I went in with lower expectations for this one and it blew me away. Like, it was incredible. I gave this 5 stars. Like, it was just so good. The only thing I will say, like I said it in the other one, I just wish Sarah J Maas had better rep in her books. Like, the elevation it would bring if we just had some better rep in general. Like, I'm aware that the representation is lacking in these books. However, I did really enjoy it. And that's all I'm going to say. Because if I say anything else, it will spoil ACOTAR. After I read that book, I wasn't in a slump. I sort of had a book hangover from Days of Blood and Starlight, to be honest. I was reading these two sort of at the same time. I finished this one first, and then I finished that one, and then I couldn't stop thinking about this. So I started an audiobook, and I had a few days of journaling. So I read The Grace Year because Tilly on Instagram highly recommended it, and it was fantastic. The audiobook was really good as well. It was like an easy voice to follow, and I really enjoyed it. It says at the start it's based on like The Handmaid's Tale and Lord of the Flies. I definitely felt The Handmaid's Tale references, and I loved it so much. I love The Handmaid's Tale. It was super clever. It follows our main character Tierney, and basically they live in a society when girls turn 16, the men who aren't married yet have to choose a girl to give a veil to marry. No one thinks Tierney's going to get a veil, but she does. But then it turns 16, so all of these women, whether they get a veil or not, they all have to go away for a year on a grace year to expel the magic in their blood. It's just amazing. Tierney's a great main character. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars overall. And then I read the Fairy Loot book of the month. So if you don't know what it is yet, here's your warning. But I read Law by Alexandra Bracken, and I was expecting good things, but this was amazing. I haven't actually read any Greek mythology. I think I read the first couple of Percy Jackson books, but like, I don't remember them. The first 100 pages was very much me coming to terms with all of the gods and the bloodlines and who was who and what was what. And I was very overwhelmed, and I wasn't actually sure if I was enjoying it or not. However, then we get into the action, and then the action doesn't stop until the end. And it was phenomenal. Almost as phenomenal as those sprayed edges. I loved it. I'm not going to try to explain it because I'm still not sure I understand the gods and the bloodlines enough to like fully try and give a synopsis of this book. But I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. But I really enjoyed the concept of like the Greek mythology but in the modern world. Very Percy Jackson. Yeah, really enjoyed this and would highly recommend. And then the final book that I read is Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean. And this is a middle grade queer book, and it follows our main character Archie, and his dad has just come out as gay to him, and he doesn't really understand it. He's 12 years old. He doesn't want it to change anything, but at the same time it has changed everything. His mum's upset, his family's breaking apart, and him and his friends want to do something about it. And he finds a flyer that fell out of his dad's pocket about London Pride, and it is basically about them planning to go to London Pride on their own. 3 12-year-olds getting the train to London Pride on their own. What could go wrong, hey? But it was fantastic. It was a classic middle grade, like, cliche, but who cares because it's cute. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars overall. I think Benjamin Dean covered this beautifully, and it, like, for middle grade readers, I think it will be like incredible. Like, I'm gonna pass this down to my little cousin. I think she'll really enjoy this. And yeah, I loved it. It was really cute. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post bookish videos every week, sometimes a bit more regularly than that. We'll see. Let me know down below what your favourite read of February was, and if you didn't read any books in February, tell me the most recent book you read that you loved. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! I don't know how I used to do a wrap up in 8 minutes on my Instagram. Anyway.